They even glued this shit, like silicone the fuel pump shit. Like what? All the bolts for the brackets are different and stripped out. None of the motor mount bolts are the same. Bruh, if you're the one who put this LT motor together, please quit. I mean, bruh, they siliconed, instead of just getting cheap rubber seals from the dealer, I mean, they even JB welded the rear main cover bolt, and it was probably rubbing on the clutch and shit. Damn. They JB welded this shit. Got this engine going together. See what this thing is going in. Got the cam put in, and then we're getting some of the timing stuff put on. We're gonna get it set to TDC. Lockout put in the gear, throw the gear and chain on, oil pump and all that. Fresh LT1. It ate up a bunch of cam bearings and stuff like that. It was actually put together very shitty, hella silicone everywhere. They didn't plug off the DOD when they did the original cam in it, so they had to get a full freshen up, a new crank, piston, stuff like that. This is the bolt they try to JB weld. Definitely replacing this sensor due to it missing the clip that plugs to the bottom of the oil pump. Let's go ahead and get this gear taken apart real quick and we'll install the lockout. Can't stress it enough on these LTs. Make sure you take out the winch tray, take out this pickup tube, take out this plate. All this needs to come out. Get all the remnants out of there. You don't want nothing. So I'm gonna pull the pickup tube out and we'll put a camera in there and see what it looks like inside. Look at all that trash in there. See all the bearing material. Look at all that shit. Yep, this is why you take off your pickup tube. Look at all that. So the pin that holds the band right there, you just want to barely unloosen that one. Since you got this locker right here holding the spring over. So you take that out, and then what you do is just slide this plate up, and then where it fits, we're gonna slide the lockout in there. We got the lockout, so we're gonna go ahead and stick it in where it fits in. All right, so we got the lockout in place. So we're gonna go ahead and remember this long bolt with the ridge goes up right here before the spring. So we'll put the rest of them in and then we'll torque them down to spec. And I'll show you the finished product from there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get this lock off of here. So we're gonna pull the spring back, and then I'm gonna take this little tab out right here, this little lock, and then we'll release the tool all the way forward. The locking tab is pulled out, as you can see, so we'll slowly release the spring back over to catch on that top bolt, the long one that goes through the top. And just like that, we'll remove the tool. And we got ourselves a 0-degree lockout installed. So let's go ahead and get the new cam bolt, get the timing set on the engine, and we'll get this thrown on. All right, we got TDC set. Pistons coming up on the upward stroke. Got all the timing stuff locked down and in place. All right, so that's my little entrapment to push the bearings out. See the bearing pushing its way out into the socket. Just make sure you have a deep enough socket. Didn't expect it to fall out like that, but you see, got the bearing out, so we're gonna go ahead and get the new bushing installed. These ones are pretty easy. You just put one side of the bushing in, slide the CHE center section through it, and then you can apply the other bushing. And then we got a bag of snap rings here. The snap rings go in that diameter on each side. So let's go ahead and get all this smushed together, get the snap rings in place, and then we'll continue on the rest of the ones we have here. That's what it should look like all together. Got the bearing rotating freely in here. Got a snap ring on both sides and they're in the groove. So we'll continue and get the rest of them done. We got the fuel lobe lifter. Go ahead and put this in here. We got the little cap on the end of it. Tighten that 13 down, and we got all the lifters in place in each cylinder. So now got the dials in, we'll throw the head gaskets on. All right, we got both head gaskets on. So let's go ahead, we'll slap the heads on it now. All right, so they want the first pass at 59 foot-pounds. So we're gonna go in close. All right. And we're gonna go in sequence, 1 through 10. 59. You know you torquing some LT heads when you breaking a sweat. These things torque down to over 100 foot-pounds. That 90 degree, that last 60, man, whew. Let's see what we got in this box. Brand new oil pump with some bolts. Look at that. Whew. See, they put silicone to seal off the fuel pump. The new sensor installed, you see how it has a locking tab on it? That's how it's supposed to be. So we'll go ahead and get the rest of these put on. Timing cover all cleaned up. Gonna go ahead, got silicone on it. Gonna throw the bolts in. Oil pan all cleaned up. Look at that. Got the seals in the oil pan. Go ahead and get silicone added to the outer rim, and then we're gonna throw it on the engine. Let's go ahead and get the oil pan thrown on. Get this drawer in here. Motor came into me, they had JB welded this bolt because they broke it off in the rear cover. So I got a new one from the dealer. Gonna go ahead and throw it in the rear plate. Got all these niggas helping me push this damn car. It's hot as hell up in here, but we getting ready to throw the motor in. I got it all together. Got them all back there. Steering one hand, no power steering. Ooh-wee. Just like that, in the bay. Ready for the motor to go in. Woo. All right, so we got the brackets on. Got most of the sensors and stuff on. We're just missing this front sensor here. It'll be here in the morning. I'm gonna go ahead and get the cherry picker put on the engine, and then I'm gonna go ahead and knock the pilot bearing in. Got the pilot bearing installed. Let's go ahead and get the clutch put on. Clutch is installed. So we'll go ahead, just look over the rest of the car, and we'll get the engine put in. We actually got to take a push rod measurement, so I'm going to wait to throw the valve covers on. I'm going to take that measurement real quick and make sure that the push rods that this engine came with are like some 7.850s. Make sure these are the right length. And then we'll throw the engine in, and then we'll get all the fuel injectors and everything going and get this thing done. We'll go ahead and start prepping the car, getting all the harness and everything out of the way. Get the subframe lowered a bit, get this thing stabbed in here. Coming down. Engine going in. Got the front end all wrapped up. Let's go ahead, get this motor in this beast. All right, I can't do it with one hand. I'll be right back. It's going down in there. Almost there. getting it connected into the clutch right now to that input shaft on the back. Just making sure there's no wiring or nothing pinched between, and then we'll get it locked the rest of the way in. We got the engine in, motor mounter tightened down, got the transmission connected, everything's laid in place, nothing in the bell housing. So we're gonna go ahead, continue to lay the harness where it's supposed to go, and I'll start putting on water pump, alternator. We'll get most of the front accessories on, and then we'll throw the headers in and do the rest of the stuff. We could throw the valve covers on. I like to leave them off when I throw the motor in. Just gives me a little extra space. This motor's been out of this car a few times, the way it was put together in the beginning of the video like you guys saw. All right, we got the new sensor on. Let's go ahead, get the water pump thrown on. I got all the silicone cleaned off and put some new gaskets on it. So we're gonna go ahead and throw the water pump on, make sure we get that connection in here. And then we got the water bypass right there to this tube. I already got the clip in there. So yep, let's go ahead and throw that in. All right, went and threw the alternator on first. Now we'll throw the water pump on. I figured it'd be in our way anyway, so let's go ahead and get the water pump on now. All right, we got the new oil cooler. Cleaned off the side of the oil pan where they had all that silicone. Instead of just getting these damn seals, but it's all good. We got a new oil cooler going in. The old one had a bunch of junk in it from the bearings and stuff, so throw this on real quick. All right, we got all the wiring tacked in up on the side of the engine, up into the insert here. Got everything tightened down on both sides. Got the crank sensor and all the wiring in place. All the knock sensors are tight. So we're gonna go ahead and throw the starter up now, and then we'll throw both headers in. To do the headers, you just gotta pull this shaft back up and move it out the way. That way we can fit the header up in there. And then we'll put all the steering and stuff down, connect it to the rest of the exhaust. All right, we got the starter in place, all the bolts locked down, got all the connections up top tight and plugged in. So let's go ahead and throw the headers up now. It's actually able to get it up there without taking the steering shaft down. Let's lower the car back down. Now we got both headers up there, and we'll get the bolts in, get the spark plugs put in. Got them new gaskets. Let's go ahead and get them thrown on. Got the passenger side on. Let's go ahead and move over to the driver's side now. All right, we got the driver's side header intact. Let's go ahead and throw these NGK spark plugs in real fast. Get these things in. Valve covers on. Injectors, high flow pump, intake, belt, coolant, oil. Fire this thing up. Got the driver's side plugs in. Let's move over to the passenger side. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, they had so much silicone right here because they broke the valve cover. Look at that shit. It's missing this whole side. Oh my God. So gonna need to put another valve cover on here. Both headers are on. I got the plate pulled off. I'm gonna go ahead and get this plate put on, and then we'll throw the injectors in, get all that plugged up, pull the tape off, blow all the holes out, and throw the intake manifold on. I was able to get both valve covers on too. When you put in your injectors in, you wanna make sure they all have these seals. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these things all cleaned up, make sure all the seals and everything are intact. Go ahead and put it in, because with these direct injection motors, since these sit under the intake, if it starts to leak gas, there ain't no way of knowing unless you start smelling it. So make sure all the seals and everything are there, clean all the injectors up, and then we'll stick them down into the cylinder heads and get them all plugged up. right, so we got the plate down, all the injectors down and tight. We got Loctite on all the fuel stuff. So we're gonna go ahead, put some Loctite on the threads here all the way to the pump. Get this last valve cover bolt in place, and then we'll tighten all this stuff up, and then we'll move on to removing the tape and throwing the intake on. Got all the fuel lines on and tight with Loctite. We're gonna go ahead, plug the injectors in and start pulling the tape up and getting the intake put on. Let's go ahead and pull this tape off, and then we'll blow the cylinders out. Make sure that there's nothing in the cylinders. All right, looks pretty clear. Don't see anything in any of the cylinders. All right, looks good enough to put the intake on. Well, I was gonna put the intake on, but as you can see, I don't know whoever did this job prior, but oh my gosh. So let me get all this cleaned up and throw a fresh set of intake gaskets in it. Well, I see why they had silicone on everything. I don't even think a gasket's gonna fit in there, man. Oh my God, if it's not one thing, it's another. Also, they have some putty right here. Looks like maybe something broke. I puttied it in, but oh man. It's not one thing, it's another. That's why they had so much silicone on this thing. All right, so I've been going ham on this thing. All that's really left is the coolant reservoir, and then we'll put some oil in it and coolant. We got the dipstick locked down in place, intakes on, air box is on, all the sensors and everything are plugged up. We've got all these lines. They got a bunch of broken fittings and stuff, and yeah, so just gonna leave that alone, as well as like stuff like that. Nothing I can really do. It needs a new intake manifold. All right, we got that deck spool going in. Got the reservoir installed. Vacuumed the system all the way down. It held pressure, so that shows there's no leaks. So we're gonna go ahead and get the system filled up here. Got the little filter on the bottom there so we don't catch any of that junk, but go ahead and get the system all the way filled up, add some oil, and then we'll start this thing up. All right, we're gonna crank this thing over a few times just to get some oil running through this motor. Well, no key detected. Let me go get the key real quick. All right, we got the key. All right, take two. Let's go ahead and just crank it over a second. It's a clutch. Almost forgot. All right. All right. All right. Let it get up to temperature, and then we'll check everything again. Let all this smoke come off. So you can see it's alive. Pressure's good, almost up to temperature. Coolant level, everything is good. Sounding great. How we do it? We'll get the rest of this wrap pulled off, and then we'll get the car back up in the air, double check over all of our work, and then off to the dyno it goes for tomorrow. Always such a great feeling. All right, we got everything up in the air, got up to temperature. Everything is nice and dry under here. This is just like old coolant that's stuck to the chassis, but everything, all the wiring's up out of the way. So now we'll go ahead and put the bottom plate underneath with all the bolts, and this thing will be good to go. Oh wow, I notice it's missing all the bolts in here too. I think I have a couple of extra bolts I'll throw in there for the customer. Yeah, whoever took the radiator out, they didn't put that stuff back in, but I'll throw some 7s back in there and then get that plate back up. And you can see this thing's been wrecked before, or they hit something, probably pulling too far up on the curb. But I got 3 bolts in there, so now let's grab that plate and throw that plate up. All right, we got the plate on. So we're gonna go ahead now, just double check over our work, get this thing pulled out the bay. Another one done. On the way to dyno for tomorrow. Getting that AC put in. All right, we got the AC all added up. Blowing nice and cold in here. First drive. It's not fully tuned, so we're just cruising it just to make sure we don't hear no weird noises or nothing before the dyno. Taking it on a little cruise. Oil pressure's great. Valves closed on the exhaust. Oh yeah, this thing is golden. AC's blowing nice and cold. AC blowing, windows down, rolling. Haha, nip. Again, it's not tuned for it, so I'm just barely under 2,000 RPM. Just making sure this thing is smooth. Looks like it needs a wideband sensor too, but let's see. It's another one done. Just like that. Put your guess down in the comments how much power you think this thing's gonna make. It's got a SS4 cam from GPI. Air Force intake, stock head, stock block, just freshly rebuilt with new parts, new crankshaft. 16 Camaro. Put it down in the comments what you guys think this thing gonna put down. All right, getting ready to get the car over to the dyno. I loaded the car up last night, took it over to my crib. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready. Got the car over on the dyno. About to get it strapped down and set up.